Hi, my name's Ginny Lindsay. I'm the principal therapist at From 2 to 3 Relationship Counselling in Crow's Nest, New South Wales. And I'm passionate about saving relationships and work particularly with young families from pregnancy until the early years of having children. And one of the things I really noticed is people come in and one of the issues is communication. And what I really notice is there seems to be this pattern of I'm right, you're wrong. And that then starts to undermine the relationship. So I thought that we'd talk about that today and reframe it to be I'm right, you're wrong, or actually, can we both be right? And it's looking at this in a different way of how we communicate together. So what I notice is that there's often a common pattern, and that pattern is that people come in and it might be something that's really quite small, that's getting in the way. But however, what is underpinning this is this desire to always be right, the other be wrong. And so that seems to then lead into an argument that then seems to escalate. And what it does have is quite a disastrous effect on the intimacy and the connection in the relationship. And so what it comes more as is then a power play between the two parties involved. And when you put down one saying they're wrong and therefore you're right, there's a disconnect that immediately happens between the two of you. So when we fall into this pattern of I'm right and you're wrong, let's just have a little look at some of the things that can come up when we fall into that pattern. So the people who is I'm right, they're not accepting any influence basically from their partner as to be able to hear their point of view at all. There's no compromise to be able to even hear their partner at all. There's no acknowledgement, there's no validation that they're even interested half the time. There's a shutdown before that even happens to hear their point of view. And therefore the walls go up, and in turn what happens is there's no vulnerability from this particular person. So this person then doesn't really get known, and then therefore their needs don't really get met. So then we go to the other side, which is the person of I'm wrong. And this is the person that really feels not acknowledged, not understood, not validated. They often then start to feel alone, lonely, quite isolated in the relationship. And it really then starts, if you have that perpetuated all the time, it really then starts to affect their confidence in themselves and having an opinion, because if it's always shut down, the message is I don't matter, or I'm not good enough. And so really then that person can also end up feeling quite sad, often comes quite depressed, and then really ultimately they're not happy in the relationship. But so what I want to do is I want to demonstrate this in a different way. So I've got this scenario that I want to, I'll put it over here, and I hope you can see it, and I apologise for the sun that's on it, but we've got maybe that might be better. No, I think I'll do it this way. So there's that's A, B, C, and D. And what I want you to imagine is that this is, and I got this scenario from the Really Relating book by Margaret Newman and David Jansen, and they just explain it beautifully. And really, what I'm really wanting to explain here is you've got to imagine this is a very large plastic ball in a paddock that's way bigger than you are. And so you have got walkie-talkies and you can't see the other people on the field because this ball is so enormous, okay? So what the task is for these people is to be able to describe to the other person what they see. And so what happens is A goes, well, because don't forget, they can't see the other side at all and they can't see the other people. So they're doing this all on the walkie-talkie. So A, what they do is they look over here and they just go, well, it's obvious. You know, it's a really, really big ball. It's a plastic ball and it's all white. So then we go over here to C, and C's a little bit puzzled. And C goes, yes, well, it is a very large ball, but what I see is that it's all blue. Well, then we come down here to B, and B thinks how unobservant the other two have actually been, because he's going, well, it's a really large ball, and yes, it's plastic, but it's not white or blue. It's white over here, which is on your left, and it's blue over here on their right. And so then we go up here to D, who sighs with exasperation, don't forget they can't see each other, and says, well, you're all wrong. Surely it's obvious. This ball is made of plastic, but it's blue over here and it's white over here. And that's blue on the left and white on the right. And so what then happens is these people lock in on their positions, but really each person is neither right, well, each person is both right and wrong, because each has some truth, but not all of it. And that's what we want to be able to take out of this, that each person, because of their brain functioning, because of their personality, because of their history, they look at things and receive things differently from each other. So the lens of how they will possibly receive it is going to be different from how their partner receives it. So I'm just going to pop that down for a minute, but I want to use this as an example of exactly how people, by getting into this I'm right, you're wrong, fall straight into this trap of not being able to look and be able to see the whole picture, and potentially how your partner may be able to see it through a different lens as well. So what we now need to be able to do is use communication skills to share your own individual awareness about what it is that you see, and allow your partner to be able to do the same. And the skill also in this is to be able to hold your own reactivity, okay? Because naturally you're going to go, well, that's not what I see. But the skill here is to be able to become curious, to be able to ask lots of questions about, well, what is it that you see? And always respect that the other's point of view is valid, okay? And remember remember the ball, constantly coming back to that vision of remembering the ball that's in this paddock, okay? And that really everyone is going to see things from a different perspective. So if we don't do that, which I think is really what we need to be very mindful of, is this issue of the right and wrong pattern breaks down relationships ultimately at the end of the day. And in order to develop the intimacy and the connection that we all want, we need to let go of all of the weapons, and we need to allow vulnerability in. And we need to be able to get to know our partner and what it is that they see and how they see it and how they feel about it and what they think about it and all of that, because that is then getting to know your partner at a much deeper level. So some of the other negative outcomes of the right-wrong pattern, which I really feel are important. That is that it really does kill love and the affinity between the two of you. And so the wrong partner then often feels inadequate, disrespected and rejected and alone. And the right partner, who is never really truly vulnerable, they also don't get their needs met because they're not allowing anyone in. So ultimately, both people will end up feeling lonely in the relationship. And so when that sort of thing happens, I think you might find yourself wanting to relook at this. So remembering the ball in the large paddock, when you have that feeling coming up of, I'm right here, I don't need to hear what she has to say or he has to say. Just take a breath and remember the ball in the paddock, and remember, do I want my relationship more than actually holding my own ground here? And if you take that stance, you've got more of a chance to be able to understand your partner's side, which is really important. And I think the other thing is here, you don't always have to agree with your partner's side, okay? So it's not about agreeing with each other, it's just walking with the other so you can understand them. So then if that's the case, where you go to yourself, you know what, I'm not sure, so say you agree, you say, hey, yeah, I really agree with that. Yeah, I often feel that way myself, or my thoughts about that are similar. And so you're talking like you agree. So that's when you agree with what they're saying. If you disagree, that's okay as well, but it's how you say it. So you might say something along the lines of, I understand what it is that you're saying about X, Y, and Z, but I don't really necessarily see it the same way, or I just don't agree with it. And maybe then be able to give your explanation. Or I see you feel really strongly about this, but I just want to let you know I see it differently. So again, you're saying and empathizing or being with them, but you're not necessarily feeling, well, I've got to give up what I feel just to agree with them to keep the peace. Because the idea about all this is to try and have authentic communication. And then you sometimes get to the place where I don't know if I agree or I disagree, and that's okay as well. So you might say something along the lines of, well, that seems really important to you, or thanks for sharing that. I can see that this is a really important issue for you. And you don't even really need to say a lot more than that. So there's some of the ways to be able to understand this, trying to deal with this pattern of I'm right, you're wrong, but actually dealing with it with, or can we both be right? And so if you're relating to this in any way and you're feeling, hey, I really would love to get rid of this pattern of being right or wrong. And if this sounds like the sort of relationship you'd like to be able to get to, where you can actually go, we can both be right, we both need to be able to understand each other and learn the skills more, then I would love to support you on that journey of getting a greater connection in your relationship and getting rid of this toxic weapon of I'm right and you're wrong. Let's both be right as we talk about it. So my number is 0412 88 2345. So if you want to pick up the phone and give me a call, or if it's easier on my mobile, ginny@from2to3.com.au, please give me a call, because this is something that can start off really quite small, but it can actually become quite big, and then the sensitivity and the reactivity takes hold pretty quickly as a pattern in a relationship. So let's talk before it breaks and get rid of that in your relationship, and have a great day.